Hello and welcome to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan. I am here with my co-host Ethan. Well, co-host Ethan. We are down one co-host. Um, Thank y'all for showing up and listening to this podcast. This is our final installment of our STAT-A-THON series. We do this every year, just going over
The
stats
best
from
time of
the
year.
the 2023 season, and just reviewing, seeing what the stats look like, some anomalies, some other things. And yeah, so this is our tight ends episode. Before we get started, y'all feel free to comment on this YouTube channel or YouTube video and let us know like what you think about this tight ends episode, about the tight ends last year, and what your thoughts are on their upcoming season. So be sure to just comment on there and let us know what you think. So we're gonna start out fantasy football spread, the point spread this
Mhm.
year between tight ends was not it wasn't as drastic as it was most years. Like really, like because we don't have that number one spot where, I think it was what 2 years ago where Mandrews was like what 75 something points or I don't know
Yeah, just
how
a
far
beast of a
ahead of
season.
the others. And you don't have the Travis Kelsey that we had like last year, where he scored
No.
a buku amount of points.
No
So,
heaters this
you
year.
know, yeah. So we were looking at the spread, and between the first ranked tight end and the fifth ranked tight end, there was only a 36-point spread.
Uh, we only
So
had
that's
one
not,
1,000-yard receiver too.
yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then between the 5 and the 10, we only had 53 points, a 53 point spread. And between the 10 and 20, we had a 34-point spread. So it was pretty evenly spread out.
Yeah,
And
that's not horrible.
like it's not bad. There wasn't
No,
like,
not at
the
all.
consensus 1, 2, and 3, and then everybody else.
They
Like,
all equally sucked, bar other than like Sam Laporta.
yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah, I hope you didn't need a tight end
no.
last year. And
Well, I mean, outside,
that's pretty much my
I'd say
feelings.
outside of the top 7, 8, well, I'd actually outside of the top 9, I'd say you struggled to find a good, consistent tight end. But everybody from like 9
Well,
up was
I mean,
fairly
even like
consistent,
Taysom
fairly
Hill.
good.
Like Taysom
Yeah.
Hill was a headache.
Oh, always. I mean, Taysom Hill is always a headache when it
Same with
comes to that.
Goddard. Same with
He either
Diggs.
scores 30 something
We'll get to it
points
later.
or
We'll
he
get to it
scores
later.
2. So,
We'll get to it
that's how
shortly.
it is. But let's go on. So that was the fantasy spread. And again, it wasn't very big. Let's move on to statistical anomalies.
Hmm.
Some of the things that we were looking over the Statathon notes and like all of their statistics throughout the year, we were finding a lot of very interesting things. One of them, which is pretty shocking to me, George Kittle, his big play percentage. Just Ethan, guess what it was?
Uh, it'd be hard for me to guess because I've already seen it.
No. Oh,
But I
never
know
mind then.
I without giving you a number because I already know the number. I can tell you just
Okay.
from watching Kittle play, it seemed like whenever he got the ball, it was something big.
It was, yeah, so his stat was 34% of the time was a big play. Like
Which is
34% of
which
the
is
time
crazy
he
because
got the
you're
ball
saying 1 in 3 receptions that he got was
was 20
huge.
yards or more. Like he
Yeah, like
had,
that's
let's
that's
see,
insane.
like, okay, the next one up. So let's go, well, other than David and Njoku, which that's just him. So like Travis Kelsey, George Kittle had almost double the 20 plus yard plays
Yep.
that Travis Kelsey had. That's crazy to me. Like that's nuts. Like statistically, that's out of the park for
Yeah,
George
well,
Kittle,
when
and
you're
I
talking
think
about
that's the
the
whole.
average, so the
Yeah,
average for all of the tight ends was 10%.
yeah,
So he's three times the average
yeah. Well,
in
and
terms of
if
the
you look,
playmaking he had last year.
yeah, and if you look at his targets, he has 30 less targets than the rest of the top, what, top seven?
Hmm.
I'd say top
Yeah,
top
they
six. Like he
San
has 30
Francisco
less
needs to
targets,
find a
but he
way
has,
to go through him.
yeah,
Like,
but he has more yards. Like he's the yardage leader this year for yards for tight end. And yet he has 30 less targets. So like the math adds up, obviously. He's got to make big plays in order to
mhm,
be, up in that top tight end bracket. But I just thought it was crazy that, he's the yardage leader, but he's got the same amount of targets as like at number 14, Kyle Pitts, and yet he's a
right.
top five tight end. So that's crazy to me. But that was just eye popping to me, that little like stat.
Well,
But
I'll throw one more at you that I liked.
yeah,
And this was kind of like a back half of the season guy, but it was Isaiah Likely.
yeah,
His was 27.5%. So okay, yeah, not
yeah,
34%. But for that end of the season push, what Isaiah
they
Likely
needed
was
him.
doing was insane for fantasy. I'm not even just
Yeah,
talking about NFL football. I'm talking about fantasy. Like
yeah,
one of the reasons why I went on such a hard playoff push was finding Isaiah Likely and just 20 points, 20 points, 20 points, 20 points, 20 points every
yeah,
single week. And even into the playoffs, he was a solid dude for my team. I think I dropped him.
yeah.
It feels
Well, and that's
disrespectful
why.
now, but
But I mean, it's a good indication, that you have a very good tight end. If he's making plays like that and able to make those yardage or make those yards, whether it's after the catch or if he's making big plays downfield, you know, that's a really good indication that you have a very good tight end. And
right.
I mean, with them having Mandrews and Likely, that's awesome. Like that, if one of them goes down, you know that the other one's going to eat. So, that's a good indication.
Yeah.
But yeah, likely was a baller, not last year, but the year before, wasn't it? When he went
Yeah, that was
when
the other year
Mandrews
that
went down.
Mandrews, yep, that was the other Mandrews injury
Yeah,
year.
yeah, he was a baller the year before, and then when Mandrews went down again this year, he ate. So that was that's fantastic. But so we have a couple other statistical anomalies that we want to point out. The one is our fantastic rookie of the year for us in fantasy football,
Yep.
Sam Laporta. Like touchdown rate, 11%. That's crazy.
Wild.
Like that's almost double with the exception of George Kittle, that's almost double everyone else in the top 5 or in the top 6. Like every 10 catches he was catching a touchdown. And he had double the amount of touchdowns than pretty much everybody else in that top 6. Like he stood alone when it
Oh
came to
yeah.
touchdowns this year, for the tight end group.
But and
So
that's just because for whatever reason it was just a down year for tight ends. I don't know what it was.
I don't know,
I
man.
couldn't I don't want to go into it too deep because I don't think it matters a whole lot. But
Yeah,
it was just a down year. But watching Sam Laporta play was awesome. I am a little worried about him next year. I don't think he's going to be tight end one,
yeah.
but
I definitely think he's going to make the top 5 though. Like he
oh
has to
yeah,
make the
for
top
sure.
5. May not be the top, like the number 1 spot again, but just for him to do that in his rookie year,
Hmm.
that's crazy. But especially with the solidified, you know, top, I'd say 3 or 4 tight ends that we
Yep.
had last year, with Mandrews. Kittle, Kelsey, and a bunch of these guys were pretty solidified at the top of their game, especially like Goddard, all of that. They were good last year or the 2 years ago, and then to come
Can
in this year and just wipe them all out and be the number one tight end.
really,
That's
really
nuts.
quickly, Ryan, can we talk about the absolute monster that was Jimmy Graham, who had a 66.67% touchdown rate?
The ageless one.
The
Where is he?
ageless
I actually
wonder.
did not see that.
He's tight end 61
Oh my God. Yeah, we should totally talk about tight end 61. Oh my
because he
God.
was that useful, am I right? But he scores 66% of the time. He's got to be great, right?
Yeah, let's go with that. He scored 4 touchdowns out of the what, 6 receptions that he got?
Yep.
My
So
God.
that's 4 of 6. Anyways,
And
our
that
advice
talk
for
about
you, go
statistical anomaly. There
go
you
and
go.
pick up Jimmy Graham immediately because he'll score
If you want
66% of the time.
if you want efficiency, pick up Jimmy Graham.
But you know
There
what?
you go.
Hey, 66% of the time it works every time. Jimmy Graham.
You're just you're just hoping and praying that they bring him in at the goal line. That's it. There you
I'll tell
go.
you what though, that's a good Sunday bet of just a Jimmy
Yeah,
Graham touchdown
Jimmy Graham touchdown. Put $5 down, and you
anytime
could
every week.
every single week. Hey, I mean, you'll make some money off of
When
it
that two
because
grand
nobody's
hits, you
taking
won't be
those
laughing
odds.
at me anymore. When that 2 grand hits the bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
So, so outside of the Sam Laporta touchdown rate, George Kittle big play rate, we got Evan Ingram over here eating up those receptions. He had
mhm,
114 receptions this
that's
year,
insane.
which
That's
is
the only reason why
that
he was
that's
relevant.
awesome. Yeah, that's the only reason why he was relevant. He didn't have the yards, he didn't have the touchdowns, but he ate up those receptions, which is
I
awesome. I
mean,
love seeing that. I had
963
him.
yards isn't horrible, but the 4 touchdowns is
Yeah,
horrible.
but see what gives tight ends their base when it comes to fantasy points per week
His
is
reception.
those receptions. So
Yep.
that's why I had him on one of my fantasy teams, and count I could count on him having 9, 10 points every week and not worry about it because
Yeah, that
I
tracks.
knew that Lawrence was throwing to him because he was one of his top receivers. So, Evan Ingram was, if anything,
Golly.
consistent, and
In
I
week
love that.
16? In week 16, he got 15 targets.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah, he
gosh.
was he was eating up those targets. So I loved having him on my team. He was consistent as all get out.
Yeah.
And he had those big spike weeks where he actually scored, a good amount too. So it's
Oh,
not like he was like, ooh, up and down.
hey,
But
can I talk about another statistical anomaly really quick?
yeah, do
Can we bring up Taysom Hill's 400 rushing yards
it. Yeah,
and
Taysom
four
Hill.
rushing touchdowns?
He ended at number 12 in our ranking. Well, in the statistical ranking.
Because he's an absolute
That's
stud.
because he's just a pure athlete. That's it. He goes in for New Orleans and he can do literally anything. He can catch the
His
ball, run the
position is
ball, pass
athlete.
the ball. Like Taysom Hill is always a 60-point week threat, like at any point. Like
Yeah.
that man could go in and do absolutely nothing that week,
Or everything.
or he'll score you 30 to 40 points
I
in a
mean, yeah,
week.
he had that
And it's
stretch
like,
from week
dude,
6 to week 9 where it was 12, 17, 25, 22, and then he got hurt.
yeah,
And then it's just
yeah.
kind of up and down from there. But
And while Derek Carr's there, I don't know. I think they're going to continue to use Taysom Hill. I think he's going to be
Derek Carr is
a sneaky
awful.
top 10.
Derek Carr is horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But I think he's going to be a sneaky top 10, possibly top 8 tight end
Yeah.
while Derek Carr is still there. Like
Hey,
no matter what. So
we'll
like
see
he's a
next
good
season.
stash just about every year until
He's
his
stashed on
contract
my
goes out.
team.
Because didn't they sign him to like a
Yep,
2-year deal or something?
they sure did.
Yeah, so like he could do something next year. But
Hey, we'll see.
okay. So that's all like the major statistical anomalies that we wanted to really talk about and point out. Some of them were just really crazy. But um, so Ethan, I got a question for you. I
Yes, hit
have an
me.
answer to this question, but
Okay.
I wanted to ask you this question. Which tight ends were you underwhelmed with this year when it comes to their performance overall? Expected performance and where they actually performed.
I mean, for me, it's kind of biased because of the whole Goddard season. Um, Now I can't really put all of that on him because he did have injuries going on and stuff.
Yeah, and this
But
is like injuries aside.
okay, I mean injuries as I mean even still Dallas Goddard, I was underwhelmed when he did play. Other than a couple of weeks. But the other big one is Kyle Pitts. Like
It's
I
ever
I
since
know
his
he's
rookie year.
I know he's a perennial favorite on that list whenever we talk about disappointments, but I
Yeah.
mean you got to keep mentioning it because when are they going to do it for him? Because he deserves it.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, this year with Kirk Cousins coming in, it could be different. But I don't know. The last, what, 2 years of just being disappointed is it's been very frustrating. As a Kyle
Yeah.
Pitts owner, it's been very frustrating after seeing him just be fantastic his rookie year and then not showing up ever since. And I
Yep.
know it's partly coaching and their options at quarterback, but still, it's frustrating seeing that. So yeah, I think he did underwhelm this year. I don't think that's going to be a factor this year. I think after the last couple of years of him underwhelming, I think and if he does anything this year,
We'll
it's
be
gonna be better.
impressed. We will be
It's
impressed.
gonna be better. So for me, it's gonna be a little bit of a surprise, but
Mhm.
Travis Kelsey underwhelmed me this year.
No, that's kind of fair though.
Like he did really well. Like for the first what 6 or 7 games, he did well, and then he trailed off, and he was making single digit fantasy impacts for the last couple of weeks of the year. And
Right.
it was kind of frustrating. And being a, Travis Kelsey owner in one of my leagues, like watching him, he's a fantastic player,
Hmm.
but he couldn't get the job done. And I don't know what
Huh?
it was. I don't know if I mean something happened this year because
Yeah,
Travis Kelsey
something
was
was wrong.
playing
Something
two
was
years
wrong.
ago, like not last year, but the year before, he was playing at an insane level. And then this year he just dropped. And
Yeah,
I don't know what's going
and
on. I
I
hope that
mean
he bounces back,
he
but
had his he had his heaters. Like he had his ups and
yeah.
downs. But
But near the end of the year, he just trailed off. It was
because
like
so
he just
let's
lost interest.
let's walk through it. All right. So we open up the year. He doesn't play. I think he was injured for that game. And then we get 12, 19, 12, 22, 24, 38, 11, and then we get four for the Miami game. They go
Yeah,
into bye week, come out of the bye, 14, 15, 12, 14. And then for playoffs, he got 7, 9, and 4.
yeah. And that killed a lot of
That's,
people that were going
yeah,
into the
that's pretty
playoffs with
rough.
him, killed them.
That's
So,
pretty rough.
you know, it's rough seeing that. I mean, he was a
Well,
top tight end for most of the year, and obviously it showed because he ended up like what tight end number three or something. But
yeah.
you
Well, and
know,
also just comparing to last year. So last year he scored 316 points, so almost 100 more points.
yeah,
And here's the difference from last year to this year. He had 30 more targets last year, so from 120 to 150. Looks like he had 27 more receptions. It was a difference of 984 yards last year to 1,300 the year before. And then
yeah.
this last season, 5 touchdowns, and the previous season, 12 touchdowns. So I don't know if it was like a red zone usage or if it was
I think
just
they
a,
had to
a game
change up.
plan thing. I don't know.
I think they had to change up because they didn't have anybody to throw to. Like they were having trouble
They
finding
and
people to
listen
throw to.
carefully to how I put this, Ryan. They
Yeah,
had Rashi Rice.
yeah, yeah.
Emphasis on that past
Let's not get
tense.
into that. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a off year for Travis Kelce. I
Yeah.
hope he bounces back again next year. But it was
But
just
we'll see,
such
man.
a
That age, Father Time is coming.
yeah. I guess this is what it is. This is what people have expected. You know, when you set the bar so high, when you come off of it, like come down off of it, it's disappointing, especially for people who like paid top dollar to
Hmm.
get you on their roster last year, and
Oh yeah,
you
it's
kind of
frustrating
disappoint them a little bit.
because
So,
you're
you
talking
know,
about like
it's
I'm sure you traded a first round pick to get him, maybe
mhm,
just the one because of the whole age thing, and you're feeling good. Like he has the one bad week, but
yeah,
whatever. You're allowed to have a bad week. And then you go into playoffs and you just throw up a
just tank.
stinker all
Yeah,
3 weeks.
yeah, it's rough. So
And what did he do in the playoffs?
it was just underwhelming.
Yeah, I can't
So,
look at his playoff
um,
numbers.
all right. So that was pretty much my only like underwhelming part. I did have um Dallas Goddard on there. But you already obviously you already
Touched
took
on
it.
him. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
don't worry. I
so
lived it, Ryan. I lived it.
yeah, yeah, you did. Okay, so going on to our next little segment, surprising performances from tight ends. Obviously, our number one is not going to be surprising to anybody that they had a surprising year, but we already talked about him a little bit. But Sam Laporta
Yeah.
just blew everybody out of the water.
Absolute
So
stud.
that's
Absolute stud
yeah,
muffin.
absolute stud. I think he's going to be a top tight end for years to come if, you know, they have the right quarterback in that system and all of that. But obviously the stars have to align. But I think he's going to be a good tight end for the rest of his career, or at
Oh
least the
yeah.
majority of his career. He just showed so much spark. Uh, okay, and then my second one was Trey McBride at tight end number 7. We talked about him
Yeah.
when he first came into the league. Josh, I remember, emphasized that he was a very good tight end and a very good tight end
Oh
option,
yeah.
but we were all concerned because Zach Ertz was still there.
Yep.
So this year, when Zach Ertz got injured,
The
Trey McBride took
stars
the
align.
reins. Yeah, stars align, and Trey
The heavens
McBride took the
open.
reins. Yeah, took the reins and ran with it. And
Yep.
he did. He had a fantastic season, a very very good season. He ended at tight end number 7. I I
Especially for
think
the
he could be a
limited work
top
he
5.
got at the start of the year. Like
Yeah,
he obviously had his ups and downs, but
yeah.
give him a
I
full season and he's pretty
yeah.
solid.
I mean, he ended the season at 7.
Yeah.
I think if if they get another pass catcher, there's a potential that he could be a top 5 tight end.
Yeah.
That's my guess. I don't know. I'm always saying that there is a potential to be a top 5 tight end, but you know, I legit think that he has the skill, he has the opportunity there to make a top 5 performance. So, do you have do you have any other tight ends that you think like have had surprising performances?
The only one I thought was Njoku on the
Okay.
Browns.
See, I thought Njoku was I think he was in the Flaccoverse. I think
Well,
that's
yeah,
why he
and
did
that's
so
all I really
well.
have to say about him because at the start of the year with Deshaun Watson was trash. And then, you bring in the Flacco verse and all of a sudden, you're scoring 12, 11, 27, 28, 16,
Yeah.
19. Like he just became their whole offense.
Yeah.
But I will say there's a reason why I dropped him and he's not actively on my team. But just in terms of people who surprised me last year, he was definitely one.
Yeah, I mean, he was a huge surprise just in the later season, like
Yeah.
the later
Oh
portion
yeah.
of the season, especially for a playoff run. He would have been a fantastic addition to
Oh
any
yeah.
playoff team. But I just think he's part of the Flaccoverse, and to me it doesn't
Let it
count.
go.
To me it doesn't count because Flacco's not going to be
That's
there
fair.
this year. Like it's not going
That
to
is
happen.
fair.
So, um, eh, yeah, I don't know. That's just my take. All right. So
That's
our
fair.
next segment, tight ends that should be near the top, but we're missing games. So I've got two in this
Mm,
category. One we've already talked about, Dallas Goedert. He played in 14 games, but he
yep.
ended the season, what? He ended the season at number 14. I really do think with
Yep.
the gap between number 14 and say 10, it was like 14 points. With those three missing games, he could have been in the top 10 easily.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Maybe,
possible.
maybe even nine if he had a couple of good games.
I mean, the
But
the biggest one on there is Mark Andrews missing
yeah,
10 games, especially
yeah, and
with
that was
with
the
what
other one that we were.
Isaiah Likely was doing.
Mhm. Yeah, and
And
that was the
honestly,
other one that
man,
I wanted to bring
I feel like you could argue Tanner Hudson in Cincinnati. He only played 12 games,
up.
um, but he was starting to get on a heater with Cincinnati. I mean, he was 39
Yeah,
receptions for 50 targets, 352 yards. I mean, nothing of that is crazy. He didn't score a touchdown, but he was cooking there for a little bit, and the injuries
yeah,
kind of piled up. The three tight end system kind of hurt him, but he had some pretty solid games.
yeah. I could see that. I didn't really pay attention to Tanner Hudson too much because,
I,
like, with Mike Gesicki on the roster, but I guess that was an addition to
me
this year.
personally, I'm really interested in Tanner Hudson. I've only added him twice and dropped him once because I keep going back and forth on it. But um, he like towards the end of the year started establishing himself in that rotation and became kind of consistent. He lost it,
Yeah,
but I mean, if he can get in that rotation and establish himself this season, he looked really good when they used him.
yeah,
But I don't know. That
yeah,
that's a
and
deep that's a deep diving
that's
into.
a deep dive. So that we can talk about next season.
We'll just call it a hot
But
take. We'll just call it a hot
yeah,
take.
just it's a hot take, hot take. There you go. We'll go with that. Okay, so we've gone over surprising performances, missing games, and then our last segment that I wanted to talk about was kind of going over all of our rookies from this year and matching them up against the veterans and see
Mhm.
how they did this year
Well,
against
obviously
all of
Sam
these
Laporta,
guys.
tight end one, so there's a
Yeah,
check mark.
yeah. And I actually did not put their tight end rankings next to them when I took my notes. So
Well,
yay.
shame on you.
Um, yeah. So we'll just, we won't go over like mm,
But I
where
mean,
they were at on the rankings.
after
But
that, like,
how did you feel that they did this year? So like Sam Laporta, we've
well, you
already
have
voiced
Laporta, and
our
then
opinion.
everyone else was just kind of
Yeah,
like a rotational piece. Like Musgrave was a rotational
yeah,
piece.
yeah,
Mayer, they didn't even get him going till the end of the season, and then just stopped using him.
yeah.
Um, and then you have, let's see here,
I mean
after Mayer. I mean, it's a huge
Musgrave
drop
did
off after
well.
Mayer. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, Musgrave did well, but Kincaid did well. He was
Oh
ranked
yeah,
number
Kincaid was
11 in
solid.
tight ends. So like he
But
was
again,
one
he
of the
was a
very
late
few
bloomer
other than
too.
Sam, yeah, other than Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid was one of the few that actually impressed me this year when it comes to rookies. Like
Yeah, and he had a
that is kind
good
of what
back
I,
half of the season
yeah,
too,
that is
or
kind of where
mid
I look
portion.
at for like rookie tight ends is like around the
Yeah,
11 spot, like especially if they're starting in a good offense, with a good
yeah.
quarterback. That's kind of where I want to see them. So I think
Well,
Dalton Kincaid would be a success
mhm.
as when it comes to like a draft for a draft pick. You know,
Yeah,
you
I feel like
want to
if you
see a top
drafted him, you're
15
not upset
tight end.
about it.
Yeah. No, because I think it was a good investment, and I think
Oh yeah.
with Diggs departing, I think
I was just about to
his
say with
stock is
Diggs
just
gone
going to
now,
go up.
yeah,
So,
I think his stock is going up too. And I mean,
yeah.
Buffalo's going to draft a wide receiver, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like Kincaid too. But other than
Yeah.
that, like Laporta and Kincaid, it's a cliff that was falling off, and the rest were just
Yeah.
rotational pieces, not really worth
Yeah.
talking too much. They're not
So,
really even deep look ats,
yeah,
like we don't
like
know what's happening with the
Musgrave and
Raiders.
Mayer, they're
We don't know what's happening with Green Bay other than the young wide receivers it seems like are taking over. So
yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that. I think Musgrave has potential, but I think he's going to need to gain the trust of
he
Love.
can potentially
So,
sit on the bench and look
yeah.
sad because that's where he
Yeah.
belongs.
Harsh analysis, but okay.
But true.
Yeah,
The ugly truth.
maybe.
The
Maybe.
ugly truth.
All right. So that is our tight end stat-a-thon. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching this video and checking out our page. Please go and look at our YouTube and see all of the videos that we've been doing this off season. And we're gonna be posting just about every week new content on fantasy football, and we're gonna continue to do that throughout the off season and the regular season. So we appreciate your patronage, and if you
Whoa.
guys want to go and check out, whoa, yeah, big word. If you guys want to go and check out our social media, we are on Facebook, X, and Instagram, all at Last Place FP. Again,
Mhm.
thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week. Oh, and Ethan, say it.
You almost forgot. And you can never
I
forget,
almost
Ryan,
forgot. I
that
almost
sometimes
forgot.
you're right. Sometimes you're Ryan. We'll see you
Sometimes you
next week.
champion.
Yeah.